What if the carnival is not about chaos, but strategy? Long before the elaborate costumes, before samba rhythms filled the streets, before organized parades became global spectacles, the festival had already existed in different forms. Its origins trace back to ancient ritual traditions, ceremonies deeply embedded in religious symbolism and social structure. What appears today as celebration once carried sacred meaning. And within that sacred dimension, there also existed elements of tension, transgression, and controlled disorder. In contemporary society, Carnival is widely perceived as a celebration defined by music, color, and collective joy. Yet this modern interpretation reflects only its outward expression. Historically, its foundations were not rooted in entertainment or spectacle, but in structured social inversion. More than 2 millennia ago, in ancient Rome, a midwinter festival known as Saturnalia temporarily altered the structure of public and private life. Dedicated to the god Saturn, the celebration was marked by ritualized role reversals and the symbolic suspension of social norms. During Saturnalia, Roman society permitted temporary and highly symbolic reversals of its normal social order. Literary sources record that, during the festival, masters served meals to enslaved individuals, who were permitted to participate in banquets within a temporarily less hierarchical environment. A limited freedom of expression was also granted, allowing them to address their masters with humor or criticism without facing customary punishment. Activities normally prohibited, such as gambling, were temporarily authorized within socially recognized boundaries. But this was not uncontrolled chaos. It was a culturally sanctioned inversion, a structured disruption that ultimately reaffirmed the very order it momentarily set aside. Such ritualized inversion functioned as a mechanism of social release, alleviating accumulated tensions within rigid social structures. Paradoxically, by allowing controlled transgression, the system ultimately reinforced its own continuity and stability. As the political structures of the Western Roman Empire gradually declined in the late Antiquity period, Christian institutions expanded their cultural and social influence across Europe. Festivals characterized by excess and inversion were not entirely abolished, but instead repositioned within the emerging liturgical calendar. What had once been associated with Saturnalian ritual was progressively integrated into the pre-Lenten period, acquiring new theological meaning while retaining elements of its earlier structure. Within the medieval Christian calendar, Carnival came to designate the period immediately preceding Lent, a liturgical season characterized by penance, fasting, and spiritual discipline. Rather than a mere indulgence, this interval functioned as a socially recognized transition between ordinary time and a prolonged phase of religious restraint. Communal feasting, heightened festivity, and public celebration marked the final days before the imposition of dietary restrictions and devotional austerity. In this sense, Carnival operated as a threshold moment, a culturally structured passage from abundance to abstinence, from expressive excess to ritual silence. In early modern Venice, 15th to 18th centuries, masks were legally permitted and provided regulated anonymity, temporarily blurring class, profession, and social status. During Carnival, this allowed interactions across rigid social hierarchies, even though true social equality was not achieved. As Carnival later crossed the Atlantic during the colonial period, it entered a profoundly different social and cultural landscape. In Brazil, European pre-Lenten traditions encountered and blended with African diasporic cultures brought through the transatlantic slave trade, alongside indigenous cultural practices, reshaping the festival within a new historical context. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, these encounters contributed to the emergence of new musical and performative forms, particularly in urban centers such as Rio de Janeiro. In this context, Carnival evolved into a complex cultural institution, reflecting processes of social stratification, cultural synthesis, and, at times, symbolic contestation within Brazilian society. Thus, contemporary carnival parades should not be understood solely as spectacles of entertainment. They represent the most recent expression of a long historical continuum shaped by religious ritual, social inversion, colonial exchange, and cultural transformation. Today, Carnival is no longer a sanctioned rebellion. It is music, industry, tourism, identity. Millions work the entire year for these few days. But maybe the ritual never disappeared. Maybe it transformed. Because even in modern societies, people still need a moment to feel free. Not to overthrow power, but to survive it.